Why are we seeing so many businesses that don't have succession planning in place? Why are founders not doing succession planning?
Because it's a swear word. It's an absolute swear word. For most founders, when we sit with them in a boardroom to say, you need to start handing over, you need to bring in a successor, you need to change titles, and they need to take responsibility. It's very difficult, and it's very difficult for a founder who's often technical. He started the business. To bring in a professional manager to take over from that is not an easy skill to transfer.
I suppose having someone alongside you questioning your decisions or perhaps second guessing you, it's difficult. You have to move away from the idea of succession being a threat and thinking more of it as a strategy.
Absolutely. And it is. And it should be a strategy, and it should be value enhancing. But that's the role as private equity, and that's what we play, is to show a founder through a lot of sort of case studies and what we've seen in the past, what is the best route to take. Because it's a frightening task to hand over your baby to someone else and expect them to take, to run it as you did, and it's hard. So Jenny, I mean, the $1 million question, when does succession planning start?
Short answer from my perspective is at inception of a transaction. I think the earlier it's done, the more seamless the transition to a professional management team can be.
Sounds early. Sounds early in the deal metrics.
It is, and it takes a lot of discipline to focus on succession planning when you're still trying to get your feet under the desk and get to know a business that you've bought into, for example. Yeah. I think the biggest challenge we find as a private equity buyer is trying to establish who is responsible for the recent financial history of a business. In the end, that's how you assess the quality of management, is how well did the business do over the last 3 or 4 years. And if your conclusion is that the founder is responsible for those earnings, then the founder cannot easily exit in a hurry.
Exactly.
So I would say that the length of the handover period, the founder-led handover period, is directly proportionate to how involved he was or she was in the recent financial success of the business. So the earlier you're able to start that transition, so that you can demonstrate to a buyer that the recent financial history is a function of the new professional management team, the easier it is for a founder to exit after a short handover period.
That is the balance between giving your new management team time to integrate and run the business, and obviously making sure things are sort of moving across or transferring their skills slowly.
Absolutely. And Mike, let's maybe go into a little bit more detail on what a succession plan could look like. If you had to take a management team or a founder through a potential succession strategy, what are sort of the key highlights or points that you would want to impart?
I mean, Jen, I think the number one thing is not window dressing. Everyone will see through that. Succession has to be done properly, but it has to be done with the right strategy in mind and the right people. So whether it's external or internal, don't forget the internal. There's a lot of people within the business that one can groom to take over. And quite often that is the safer way to go, because they understand the culture, they understand the business, and the entrepreneur or the founder is a lot more familiar. It's almost a less risky approach for him. Unfortunately, often the skills are not internal, and we have to go outside. But again, one just has to do that with the mindset of the founder, but he has to step back. As I say, it must be done properly, but almost to the point where within a year or two, the founder should be completely or almost hands off, where the numbers that are produced at the business is from the new management team and not from the founder.
So you mentioned identifying talent internally. I suppose that's also comes back to my earlier point of starting the strategy early, trying to identify promising up-and-coming youngsters within a business for future roles, senior roles in the business. Now, to the extent that you can't find that talent internally, how do you go about finding external talent? I mean, what do we as private equity do with, in our own portfolio to find suitable external talent?
It's a good question, and we're still trying to look ourselves. So we haven't perfected that model yet, and I think we do battle. As I said, South Africa is lacking skills in certain areas. I think we've got fantastic skills in certain of our sectors, but there are sectors where we're very, very short. So Jen, just in closing, final thoughts on how would you, and again, if I was out there entrepreneur, what do I do? What do I look for? What have I got to be scared of?
So we always talk about Corvest partnering with management. And initially we might be partnering with a founder, but for the long-term success of a business, we have to think beyond that. The founder has to think beyond him or herself to a management team that can take the business into the future. And ultimately, it's that future management team that we're also partnering with. So start your succession plan early. Even if you don't have people in the business that you can identify and develop and grow, start thinking about the key roles that need to be filled and get people into those roles a good 2 or 3 years before you want to exit your business. Otherwise, you don't have a team that a future buyer can partner with and take that business into the future. It's all about sustainability of the business.